Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well, and thank you for joining me today. I wanted to continue on the senses. As I mentioned before, in Buddhism, it's considered consciousnesses. So, last time I spoke to you about hearing, consciousness, the hearing, the part of the senses. And today I thought I would put together, because they go very closely, is the sense of taste and smell. But before I go there, I actually realized that I have this beautiful background of Mount Fuji. And this happened, just to give you a background in it, during a ceremony that was held. I think I spoke to you about it around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, where it is said that the Buddha becomes enlightened between the hour of the ox and the tiger. And that's between 3 and 5, if I'm not mistaken. But that evening, that night, I guess that morning, actually, I decided to stay up with a couple of Buddhist friends of mine. We wanted to see the sunrise. So this was actually, me taking a picture as we were talking and contemplating and watching this amazing sunrise coming through next to Mount Fuji. Back there, if I'm not mistaken, that structure that you see behind me, if I'm not mistaken, it's called a stupa, where it is erected through the memorial of an individual. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on here, and a lot of history and personal experience. But getting back to the senses, um, the sense of smell and taste, again, these are important for us. We're like antennas. I mean, we're literally a biological antenna. And through all these senses, we are, receiving information from the outside. And, eventually you'll understand that this information goes straight to the nervous system. And it's at that point deciphered depending upon our beliefs and perspective and so forth. Um, this information, again, it's absorbed and then put back out depending on all those factors that I mentioned. But taste is again, and smell are very intertwined because they're very close. So if something happens, for example, you have an injury and you hit a certain part that affects your sense of smell, it'll affect your sense of taste. I actually dated someone a long time ago who actually had a head injury, and his sense of smell was very limited. So in his palate, he wasn't able to grasp certain spices and flavors because those sensories were damaged. So imagine, having these senses um, polished. So if they're damaged, you're actually not receiving uh, full on the information that is being put in, either through food, through smells, through the music, through the voice. So again, we're going back to the fact of how important it is for us to have in mind taking care of these uh, consciousnesses that we have, which are embedded in the senses. Now, just to give you an idea as well, uh, how important this was for the historical Buddha, uh, our true Buddha, Nichiren Daishonin, as our true Buddha in the Japanese practice, and other gurus like the yogis and probably some Hindus. It is said, and I've read um, some of the writings and teachings, especially in the Japanese Buddhism, of when offerings were given, you can tell that they were vegetarians by the offerings that the people would give to the Buddhas. And um, in Japanese Buddhism, they call them, he had some writings, and these writings were called goshos. So his writings that he made, he would always make letters and he would write, thank you um, for I received your bag of rice or your bag of seaweed. I mean, it was just amazing to see that. Excuse me. And eventually, I was able to, collaborate. With one of the priests that I was very close to. I said, because not everybody's, vegetarian or vegan, etc. Even though you might practice a spiritual, practice, Buddhism, some people do still eat meat, believe it or not. I don't eat red meat, but that's another story. But going back to what I was saying about the writings, the goshos, and having that question answered, obviously clarified that, Nichiren Daishonin actually was a vegetarian, and and it was confirmed with the priests that I mentioned, as well, like I said, as Shakyamuni. So imagine, I mean, reading about the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, how he was so concerned, obviously, even about some, walking and hurting, insects. I mean, I've heard so many amazing stories of how far, it went. Obviously, it's hard for us on a daily basis to figure out, um, if I'm stepping on an ant or something, but basically having that attentiveness to your surroundings, um, you know, is such an amazing thing when it comes to when you get into a spiritual practice, that these are aspects that are so important in order for us to, hence to become enlightened um, in whatever spiritual, practice that you're trying to continue on. But with that said, um, when we do consume, it's important to have in mind the simplicity of the food, the drinks. Obviously, I'm still in this journey, and not perfected. I love food, so I've had to obviously temper it a little bit because eventually, the older you get, the more you have to take care of those things, the things that especially we consume. But the body is so intelligent that it knows that whatever you put in, especially simple foods that the earth, Mother Nature has given us, it knows how to break it down. It knows how to take this information in and and process it. So in that case, when you have good food, your body will assimilate and will understand how to utilize that to the best of its ability. On the other hand, when we consume, food that is definitely a lower vibrational, it's genetically modified. Unfortunately, animals. Um, when we get to that point to understand that the body will not process stuff that it's not conducive. It doesn't even understand sometimes a lot of the times what is it that you're putting in, and hence why sometimes it protects you and creates, what they call tumors. Um, so in that case, we're again being attentive to what we eat, and and again, even the smell. The smell affects you as well on the level of mental, emotional, and physical. I can attest to both. I enjoy essential oils, and I've seen the benefits of smelling beautiful and natural organic scents. And the same, obviously, with food. Food will affect you mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I've been in that spectrum because of obviously the journey that I've gone through, not only spiritual, but the journey of healing, which brings all that together. So again, the body is intelligent and will take information that it's supposed to, especially food, to receive. But if it's not meant for the food, meant for the body, excuse me. An example that I heard once is like the body cannot make eyeballs out of potato chips. So with that said, I mean, if we put something in the body that doesn't have any sense to it. It doesn't have any benefit. Where is that going to go? So it'll be trapped in certain areas of your body. You will eliminate certain things. But again, the point is that all these things, the sense of smell again, it can be toxic as well. I was working at a place where the actual uh, store where I worked at was a beautiful furniture store that I did sales. They had an issue with sewage because you know, Miami was growing. We had all these high rises there. The pipes were compromised. I mean, my health was really, and others was really affected. But that's on the spectrum of smelling toxins. So on the other hand, like I said, smelling essential oils, especially lavender, I mean, that brings such calmness to your nervous system. So there's again, this is a very rich conversation, and I'm trying to keep it in shorter videos. But another example that I wish to share is when I was teaching yoga in Miami. I had the habit of using as many of the senses as I could. For example, I would bring essential oils. I would put um, relaxing music without words. And obviously, the asanas, the postures, giving instruction, they would hear me. And so, again, I always try to incorporate all the senses, but it was very rewarding for me to hear from one of the students, and she was in her 70s, and she was very active. And she came to me and said, Vicky, this is the first time ever that I sat somewhere and all I was feeling was being in the present moment. And that's how I felt being in your class. So I'm not saying this obviously to, to rub my shoulder here, but just to get that feedback, it just was amazing. I was very humbled and emotional and and there was I guess a pivotal moment, a moment of like, aha, like wow, if we took the time to really put the right information in and continuously do this, we can really hone in to the present moment. And everybody's different, so you can experiment with different senses and see how it resonates with you. But I can tell you from experience that, especially, like myself, that I'm very, I think a lot, and that's been one of my, I guess it can be good, but it can be bad at the same time. But I've had to tone down my process of thinking, and obviously all that is connected to the nervous system. So honing in on all these senses, um, little by little, really helped me to be present, you know. And again, it's a continuous journey, and I am excited to continue this and hope that if, you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you. The next video, when it comes to this series, I will talk to you about touch. So I will talk to you soon. Have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. I send you my love.